Hello, William here again, and welcome back to my channel, and thank you for joining me again this week. Now, this week's project video, something a little bit more ambitious, even more so than last week's project. Now, a few days ago I was running through the videos on the Wonky workshop channel, which is run by Tarrent. Now, Dan's YouTube channel has got some great tips on there for all types of woodworking. Some of them are very relevant to us woodturners. Now, a few weeks ago, Dan uploaded a very interesting video regarding the Japanese Raku pottery. Now, I'm not going to go into the technique itself because you really need to go and have a look at Dan's channel to see this for yourself. It's amazing. And of course, you can quite rightly ask, what's pottery got to do with wood turning? Well, it kind of inspired me to create a project where there was the illusion of more than one layer to the outside of the piece. I don't want to ruin the experience for you of watching Dan's very good video on Raku, but suffice to say that the process is based upon the shattering of an outside layer to reveal another layer underneath. So this kind of inspired me to dream up, concoct a project where there appeared to be two levels of layer on the outside. So how am I going to do this? The idea that I've got floating around in my head at the moment is to turn a traditional wood turning bottle as opposed to the modern wine bottle, and then contour the outside so that it's at two different levels, and to finish one part completely different to the other part. I think this could work well together, and I'm thinking of on the upper level or the outer skin to have a kind of crackle effect, and possibly the lower layer, or what would be the inside, maybe to do some contouring or some texturing using sandblasting techniques. Anyway, that's where I'm starting off, and with the idea will of course develop as we go along. Okay, for this project I found a lump of cypress in my wood pile. It's about 18 inches long by about 9 inches or 10 inches in diameter. Once I have it mounted between centres, I'm going to remove as much as the bark as possible to save it hitting me in the face. So, having roughed it down to good wood, I noticed that there is a couple of small cracks, but at least one very significant deep fissure. I'm going to have to deal with this a little later when I find out how deep it is. The basic shape of this form is going to be a sphere. Now, the sphere will have a neck and a stop at the top and a small foot, but I'm going to use my Paul Howard sphere jig nevertheless. But firstly, I'm going to put a tenon on the bottom and mount it in the Colossus jaws. Okay, having got the sphere roughed out, I now need to tackle this crack, which doesn't seem to be going away. I'm going to use a series of CA glues. I'm going to start off with thin, then add some medium, and then add some thick. At the same time, poking in some sawdust to help fill the gap. Here I'm just marking out or delineating the two levels of finish. For simplicity, I'm going to keep the sections quite large. Now, to reduce the level of the second layer, I'm going to remove most of the material using my Arbortech Mini Carver. Now, this is a new tool for me, having broken my Proxxon a few months ago, and it made a good job of removing the material. Now, to tidy up the edges and show a bit of definition at the transition point, I cleaned this up using my Proxxon Motorised Carver. Thereafter, I decided to have a go with the wire brush as an experiment to see what effect it would give me. Actually nothing interesting, so I gave up on that one. Now, just to tidy up the transition lines, I'm just going to use this flat-ended burr on my Dremel. After a bit of light sanding, this project doesn't require a very smooth surface, I gave the piece a good dousing in acrylic sanding sealer. Now, I want the raised part of the surface to have a crackle effect. This is typically produced by painting over with two coats of paint which are incompatible, i.e. one will be a spirit based and the other will be acrylic. Now, for the base colour, which is black, I'm simply going to use some ebonizing lacquer which is spirit based. So I'm looking for a hard edge between the Crackle glaze and the rest of the project, so I'm just going to mask off part of the black rim. Okay, so here I'm just adding some cream acrylic paint. Now, there's two things that affect the look of the Crackle. That is the dryness of the base colour, in this case how dry the black paint was, and also the depth or the amount of paint you put over the top of it. Now, in this case, I put a very heavy layer of cream acrylic paint over the top of a tacky black base. This gives you very wide cracks. Okay, having let the Crackle glaze cure overnight, I'm now going to reverse the masking tape to preserve the black line. Now, looking around my workshop, trying to decide what I can use to infill the lower layer. Now, I have available in my workshop the full range of Modern Masters metallic reactive paints, and I opt for the iron effect. So the first stage then is to get some primer over all of the surface, and this can take 2 or 3 applications. When the primer has fully cured, I can now start to add the iron effect paint. Now, this stuff is quite difficult to apply because it's lumpy and it doesn't stick very well, so it does take again 2 or 3 applications to get 100% cover. Also, this paint is very smelly. It does remind me, for those of you that have been to Southeast Asia, of the fruit durian. Now, with the final application of the iron effect paint, I'm going to add some activator, which is going to cause the top layer to go rusty. So I just have to finish the top opening now. I'm going to trim it back a bit and then hollow it out a little. Now I want people to understand that this object is made of wood, so I'm not going to colour the opening. Okay, so there we have it then, a bottle, or at least a bottle-shaped object, inspired by the Japanese pottery art of Raku. Now, I saw this on Dan Tarrent's Wonky Workshop YouTube channel. Now, when I originally thought up this project, I was going to sandblast the lower layer of the wood to reveal the highs and the lows in the grain. However, the little sandblasting gun I got to go with my very large compressor did nothing at all. It wouldn't even take the paint off my fingernails. So that was aborted in favour of something I had on the shelf, which was the Modern Masters metallic iron effect paint. So what do I think of it? Not much. Would I have it in my home? No, no way. But anyway, the thought was there, wasn't it? There was quite a few cracks appeared in this piece of Cypress as I was turning the project, and I think there's a good chance that they're going to reappear. So I'm going to store this somewhere cool and dry for a few months just to see what happens to it. Okay, so thank you very much for joining me again this week for my project video, and I hope to see you again next week.